What is it about Darwin's idea that is so dangerous?
I think Darwin's idea upsets a very ancient apple cart. For thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of years, our ancestors have thought that it takes a big, fancy, intelligent thing to make a less intelligent thing. You never get the pot making the potter. You never get the horseshoe making the blacksmith. It's always smart artificers making lesser things. And so the idea of an intelligent creator that made all the wonderful things that we see in the world just seems to stand to reason. And Darwin comes along and says, well, no, there's a completely different theory which says all of this wonderfulness, all of this design can bubble up from unintelligent things, from a process which itself has no intelligence, but which in a mechanical way generates all of this diversity and all of this excellence of design. And at first that idea is just shocking. It's very hard to believe. We now can see that not only does it have a good chance of being true, there's a tremendous wealth of evidence showing that it is true. But that's such a radical inversion of our reasoning that many people say, well, that's okay for some things, but I want to cling to the old ways of thinking in my own territory, say, for art or music or for the human mind or for conscience, for ethics. And so we get these collision zones where some people are thinking in the new post-Darwinian way, and other people are thinking in the old-fashioned top-down way, and there's collisions, and that's dangerous.
You've described the design of natural selection as brilliant but mindless. Can you explain?
The late Francis Crick used to joke. He had what he called Orgel's second rule. Orgel's named after his colleague Leslie Orgel. Orgel's second rule is that natural selection is cleverer than you are. Again and again we see in natural systems, in organs, in individual cells, in the wing of the bird, in the way that polar bear makes its den. We see wonderful design well worth copying, stupendous use of resources. This is design that enraptures engineers who know good design when they see it. So there's a lot of exquisitely well-designed materials in the living world. But the process that made it is not itself intelligent or directed. It is a sifting process. It's a mechanical sifting and differentially replicating. It's like a tournament which automatically has a winner, and the winner doesn't just advance to the next round, but makes lots of copies of itself to advance to the next round. And it's this incessant competition, copying, which automatically finds the design improvements and discards the rest. So it's profligate, it's wasteful, it wanders aimlessly around in the space of possibilities, but if there's good design out there to be found, it finds it. And so it is a process that is itself mindless, but since it has the copying feature, that's what Darwin appreciated, that it's the preservation of the good designs and the further elaboration of those designs in the next generation. That's where the ratchet is, that ratchets up the design from generation to generation. The good bits are saved and used again.
How do you explain evolution to skeptics? How can you convince them? Can you?
Well, I don't know. I've been trying for many years. My main effort was my book, Darwin's Dangerous Idea, where I sought to explain that very idea at great length, to show why it was unsettling, why it was dangerous, and then to illustrate how it in fact applies not just to the design of the parts of organisms, but also to the design of social institutions, to the design of languages, to the design of human culture, and of course to the design of our minds. This is a huge inversion of the standard way of thinking. We tend to think that minds come first, and the minds are the causes and the designs are the effects. And what Darwin shows us is among the effects that evolution has spewed up so far are minds. Minds are a very recent outcome of evolution, not the original cause of evolution.
Are there dangers when half the population of the United States doesn't accept evolution?
It might not seem to make any difference. If half the population didn't believe in plate tectonics and the other half did, who cares? I mean, the geologists would be upset because a lot of people would be believing something false, but it doesn't seem to have any practical difference. But in the case of evolution, in fact, I think it does. Because many of the big problems that the world faces right now, problems about water, fresh water, about population, about disease, about national boundaries and the movement of people, these all have implications that if you want to understand them, you have to understand them from an evolutionary perspective. We are threatened with newly evolved disease vectors. We're threatened with bird flu and Ebola virus and SARS and other such things. These evolve very fast. Now, if we think about them from an evolutionary perspective, we can do a much better job of responding to the threats. If we don't think about them from an evolutionary perspective, we're making matters much, much worse for us. The classic example is antibiotic-resistant germs, which arise precisely because people don't know how to use their antibiotics right, and if they use them in ways that actually enhance the evolution of resistant strains, then we're poisoning ourselves. We're making a time bomb. We've got to understand these issues, and evolutionary biology is the way.